In this video, we go through the untold stories of Vanna White, the blonde face from Wheel of Fortune, while showing you some of her rare photos. Our story begins in 1982 when Vanna White found herself at a crossroads. She had a few $100s to her name and a dream that refused to die. But there was something Vanna didn't know. She was about to meet someone who would change the course of her life forever. September 1982 was a month to remember. Vanna was enjoying herself at a celebrity dinner. Later, she decided to approach the show business icon with all the courage she could muster. This icon's name was on everyone's lips. It was Merv Griffin, the creator of Wheel of Fortune. Apparently, he was looking for a new letter turner. No one had to tell Vanna that this was her chance. She introduced herself to Merv. How could she have imagined that this split-second decision would change her life overnight? Within weeks, Vanna landed the role of a lifetime. Was the glitz and glamour enough, or would Vanna be under pressure to prove herself as more than just a pretty face? Vanna would never forget her audition for Wheel of Fortune. She was nervous, inexperienced, and stumbled through the screen test. The poised and lustrous models competing for the part didn't help matters. Vanna was sure she'd missed her chance. Pat Sajak, who hosted the show, had doubts about her. No one, apart from Merv Griffin, saw something special in Vanna. "Trust me," he insisted. "She's got a great look. She's a nice person. People will love her." Merv's instincts were right. From the moment Vanna stepped on stage, a star was born. Her megawatt smile and warm personality lit up the screen. Viewers couldn't get enough of the gorgeous sidekick who made turning letters look glamorous. Within months, Vanna mania swept the nation. Every fan wanted an autograph, not to mention the magazines that featured her on their covers. Vanna was the cheat on how to become a household name. What no one knew was that Vanna struggled with the pressures of this sudden fame. Women in the entertainment industry faced constant scrutiny and sexist assumptions, and Vanna wasn't an exception. Was she just a pretty face? Was she a dense lady who got by on her looks? But Vanna was determined to prove them wrong. She threw herself into the role with professionalism and poise, memorizing every puzzle and mastering the art of the reveal. Between takes, she pored over puzzles, asking producers for advice on everything from wardrobe to stage presence. Vanna's work ethic and eagerness to learn impressed the crew and confounded the critics. Wheel's ratings soared together with Vanna's star power. She was on magazine covers. She endorsed products. At some point, she even tried acting. Vanna's roots never took a backseat to her success. According to her, her mother's love and sacrifice were the core reasons why she flourished. The tabloids would eventually spread rumors of a romance with host Pat Sajak. What did Vanna do? She laughed it off with her characteristic good humor. But that humor was about to be severely tested. There was a storm coming, and Vanna wasn't prepared for what was about to hit her. 1980 came with all the upsets people tried to avoid. At 23, Vanna was just starting to find her footing in the industry, but a single phone call was about to change all that. Her mother battled with ovarian cancer without telling Vanna a word about it. She kept quiet until the disease had become worse. The doctor's hands were tied, and Joan felt it was time to let her baby girl in on what had been happening. Vanna was devastated by two things. Her mother was sick, and she wasn't aware. Before it could linger, Vanna was already back home in South Carolina to be by her mother's side in what was likely her final days. Why did Joan keep her illness hidden from Vanna for months? Was it because she didn't want to burden her daughter as she struggled to make it in Tinseltown? No matter what Joan's reasons were, Vanna was shattered. She put her Hollywood dreams on hold and raced back to North Myrtle Beach, determined to cherish every last moment with her mom. At Joan's bedside, Vanna held her hand and fought back tears. She listened in disbelief as her mother struggled to whisper her final wishes. With a trembling hand, Joan joined Vanna's hand with that of her best friend, Peggy. "Take care of my little girl," she pleaded. "Watch over her just like a mother, just like I would." It wasn't easy for Vanna to watch her mother slip away. It felt like a piece of herself went with her. Joan had been her rock, her biggest cheerleader, her guiding light. At just 44 years old, she was gone, leaving Vanna drowning in grief and regret. If only she had known sooner. If only she had been there more. The guilt threatened to consume her. But in her sorrow, Vanna found purpose. Her mother never doubted her abilities and dreams. Joan had encouraged her baby to chase her dreams despite the odds. Losing Joan lit a fire within Vanna, a burning desire to make her mother proud. She channeled her pain into determination, vowing to make it big in honor of the woman who had loved her so fiercely. Joan was at the center of Vanna's life, and her passing reenacted moments from Vanna's childhood that came with pain and nostalgia. She wouldn't have made it without Joan. Let's take a detour into Vanna's early years and how her mother helped her defy all odds. The day was July 7, 1957. A baby girl named Vanna Marie Rosich was born in a small town in South Carolina. No one knew that she would grow up to become the Vanna White, who would capture the hearts of millions of Americans. But someone believed in her mother. She was raised by her mother Joan and her adoptive father Herbert White. Vanna enjoyed a childhood filled with love and laughter, but something wasn't quite right. There was a secret that hung over her life. Vanna was 12 when her mother told her who her real father was, but Joan was there for her all the way. The teenage Vanna dreamed of stardom and wealth. She began entering local beauty pageants, hoping to follow in the footsteps of her mother's childhood friend, actor Christopher George. Determined to make it big, Vanna made a bold move to Atlanta to attend modeling school. In Atlanta, Vanna struggled to make ends meet. She picked up odd jobs here and there, but her heart was set on Hollywood. Despite a detour into love with a young romantic partner, Vanna knew her destiny awaited in Los Angeles. She didn't have more than a few $100s, but she headed west in a U-Haul. Vanna would find out that LA wasn't what she presumed. Vanna faced constant rejection, pounding the pavement with little success. Was her mother's belief in her enough to get her through it all? Vanna's hope began to dim at this point, but that wasn't the worst of it. The devastating passing of her beloved mother loomed over her. With a heavy heart, Vanna returned to Los Angeles. She threw herself into auditions with a newfound intensity, determined to make her mark. Small roles found their way to Vanna's skills. What Vanna didn't know was that a chance encounter with someone was about to take her places she only dreamed of, places that would have made Joan proud. Who exactly was this someone? It was John Gibson. Vanna and John met each other in the early 80s. They agreed that it was love at first sight. John wasted no time in sweeping her off her feet. Vanna and her dashing boyfriend became inseparable. It was remarkable the kind of deep bond they shared. They also supported each other in their pursuit of Hollywood dreams. But May 17, 1986 came with its woes. Vanna was right where she wanted to be, on top of the world. She flourished not just in her Wheel of Fortune role, but in her romance with actor John Gibson. It wasn't a secret that they were in love and were planning a future together. What they didn't know was that their happy future was about to be shattered. The day was coming when Gibson would die in a tragic plane crash. What would become of Vanna? She would drown in grief. In her words, "His death was the darkest chapter of my life, one I almost didn't survive." None of them knew what that spring day in 1986 held. A devastated world wasn't part of her options. Gibson was an avid pilot who had taken a small plane out for a flight. The aircraft lost control around LA and plummeted to the ground. Gibson was killed on impact. He was just 37 years old. Vanna was at home when she heard the news. A single line on the TV sent chills down her spine. Actor killed in plane crash. Her instincts told her it was Gibson. She waited for the phone call to confirm her worst nightmare. It came eventually, and Vanna collapsed. The guilt threatened to eat her alive. Why hadn't she stopped him from flying that day? How would she get on with her life without him? These were her darkest moments. Would she ever smile again? Would the hole in her heart ever heal? But slowly, painfully, Vanna began to piece her life back together. She focused on her work. The love of family and friends was something she could rest on too. They were the support that held her up when she couldn't stand on her own. The memories of the love she and Gibson had shared weren't things she wanted to let go of. Vanna discovered a strength she never knew she had. She rose from the ashes a different breed of strong and wise. She also became more grateful for every moment. While she was picking up the pieces of her life, she couldn't have predicted what was coming. There was a disturbing controversy that was about to push her to the breaking point once again. Would she survive? 1987. It wasn't up to a year after losing the love of her life. Vanna White found herself in a devastating scandal. This one surely threatened to derail everything she'd ever worked for. She had taken nude pictures before her rise to fame, and Playboy magazine had those pictures right where the profits are. The publication splashed the images across its pages without Vanna's consent, leaving her feeling violated, exposed, and utterly betrayed. But we've seen Vanna already. She wasn't going to let herself crumble under the weight of public scrutiny. Vanna fought back with all she had. It wasn't surprising that Vanna was blindsided by the news. The photos, taken by a photographer friend back in her struggling actress days, were never meant for public consumption. Vanna had posed for the provocative shots under the assumption of privacy, trusting that they would remain confidential. Now that trust had been shattered. Vanna was devastated. She knew that millions of people would see the images. She would be vulnerable to judgment and ridicule. These photos would tarnish her reputation beyond repair. But rather than hide in shame, Vanna made a bold decision. She would take on Playboy in court. Vanna didn't waste time suing the magazine for $5.2 million. Her claims: the unauthorized publication of the photos was a violation of her privacy. The case was sure to make headlines around the world. Did she have the right to complain about images she'd willingly posed for? Vanna held her ground. She argued that consenting to private photos did not mean consenting to their public distribution. She wasn't fazed every time she walked into court each day. She was determined to fight for her dignity and her rights. Her bravery paid off in a remarkable way when Vanna reached a settlement with Playboy. With the scandal behind her, Vanna focused on moving forward. She found love again. This time it was with restaurateur George Santo Pietro. The couple didn't waste time in tying the knot. It was a lavish ceremony in 1990. The marriage was a second chance at happiness. She deserved a fresh start after so much heartache. Vanna celebrated new beginnings while hiding a painful secret. She struggled silently with infertility for years. Who knew she was desperate to become a mother? The next few years saw the couple enduring rounds of grueling IVF treatments. Their hopes rose and fell with each negative pregnancy test. Vanna finally did conceive, and the joy was overwhelming. Son Nico arrived in 1994, followed by daughter Gigi in 1997, making Vanna's family complete. Again, something stood in the way of the happiness she had fought for all these years. 18 years of appearing on Wheel of Fortune was apparently not enough to be seen. Vanna discovered she was being paid just a fraction of host Pat Sajak's salary. Why give her this bitter pill of unfairness to swallow? Vanna found herself battling for her worth again. This time, she demanded the equal pay she deserved. This fight was one she would ultimately win. She didn't accept the unequal treatment. She fought for what she deserved. With so much courage, she confronted the show's producers. How could they ignore her when she was armed with evidence of her enduring popularity and indispensable role in the show's success? Vanna made it very clear. The days of being undervalued and underpaid had come to an end. The negotiations were tense. Vanna refused to back down even as the pressure mounted. Her battle for fair compensation was not just about her own paycheck anymore. It was now about setting a precedent for women in the entertainment industry as a whole. It didn't take long before Vanna's resilience paid off. She secured a significant pay raise, bringing her salary closer in line with Sajak's. Vanna White has graced our television screens as the beloved co-host of Wheel of Fortune. There's no doubt that her story will continue to inspire fans for a very long time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out other videos of beautiful ladies from yesteryear.